It is the middle of July, the worst of the heat is still coming, and most of the garden already knows it. The coneflowers wilt by noon. The lawn has gone crisp and brown, even the tough old standbys are just hanging on, waiting for it to be over. And then there are these 8. The hotter it gets, the harder they bloom. While the rest of the garden fries, these keep right on going. One of these 8 has flowers the size of a dinner plate that look like they belong in the tropics, and yet it shrugs off a winter cold enough to kill a real tropical hibiscus. One actually gets its second wind in late summer, blooming hardest at the very moment everything beside it is shriveling. One is at its absolute best on the most brutal, sticky days of the year, when the plants around it have simply given up. And before we finish, I will tell you the plant almost everyone is told to grow for heat, the one that actually wilts and sulks the moment it turns hot. 8 perennials that bloom harder the hotter it gets. Let me show you why they do it, and which ones will work where you live. The first plant is the one I want you to picture before any other. Hardy hibiscus. Imagine a flower the size of a dinner plate, 8 or 9 inches across, in deep red, or clean white, or pink, each with a dark eye at the center. It looks like something off a tropical island. And here is the collision. This is one of the toughest, cold, hardy perennials you can grow. It comes back from around 20 degrees below zero, year after year, in zones 4 through 9. A real tropical hibiscus would be long dead. This one sleeps under the snow and returns. It is also a true child of the heat. It wakes up so late in spring that every year people decide it has died and nearly dig it up. Then the heat arrives, and it grows fast. Through the worst of the summer, it opens those enormous flowers, peaking in the dead heat of August. Each giant bloom lasts only a day, but the plant opens a fresh wave every morning for weeks, so the show never really stops. Here is the heat lover test, the question I am going to ask of every plant on this list. Does it actually bloom more in the heat, or does it only survive the heat? The hibiscus is the real thing. The hotter the summer, the harder it works. One honest caveat sets it apart from the rest. It is the single plant here that wants steady water, not drought. It grows wild in damp ground, so keep it watered and it rewards you. You can find the named Summerific kinds from growers like Proven Winners and Great Garden Plants, usually around $30 to $40 for a good-sized plant. So why do some plants bloom harder in heat while your coneflower wilts in it? It is worth understanding, because once you see it, this whole list makes sense. What these 8 plants share is simple, and you can see it for yourself. They flower on new growth, and they keep making new growth right through the heat. A cool season plant slows down or rests when summer turns hot and the nights stay warm. These plants treat that same warmth as growing weather. They just keep pushing out fresh stems, and every fresh stem carries a new set of flowers. Here is the proof you can watch. Cut one of them back in the middle of summer, and in a week or 2 you will see new flowering shoots, because the heat is still driving new growth. That is the real difference, the one you can see happen in your own garden. That is the whole secret. They are not enduring the heat, they are using it. It is the difference between a plant from a cool mountain meadow and one from a hot, sunny place near the equator. They are simply built for opposite weather. If that one idea was worth your time, do me a favor and subscribe, because plants like these are exactly what this channel is for. And stay with me, because the plant everyone grows for heat by mistake is coming up, and so is the one that blooms its hardest on the single worst day of summer. Plant number 2 is the one that gets its second wind right when it should be fading. Lantana, the variety called Miss Huff. Most flowers are tired by late summer. Lantana is just getting started. When the August heat shrivels the zinnias, this one is hitting its peak. The flower heads hold orange, yellow, and pink all at once, with butterflies working them from morning to dusk. It blooms without a pause until frost, and the deer leave it alone. Crush a leaf, and it gives off a sharp, pungent scent, the kind some gardeners love and some do not. Miss Huff earns her spot for another reason. She is the hardiest lantana there is, surviving short cold snaps down near 0, which makes her a genuine returning perennial in Zone 7 and warmer. In colder gardens, grow her as an annual or keep her in a pot and bring her in for winter. One more thing in her favor. She is nearly sterile, so instead of wasting energy making seed, she pours it all into flowers. This one passes the real test. It does not just survive the heat, it blooms hardest right in the thick of it. Look for the true Miss Huff at specialty growers like Plant Delights, where she came from, or Rare Roots, usually $15 to $25. One caution: choose named sterile lantanas. The common seedy kinds are invasive in warm states, and the berries are toxic, so keep them away from grandchildren and pets. Third on the list is a hummingbird's favorite restaurant, and it shows you the heat trick in action. Salvia guaranitica, sold as black and blue. The flowers are a true deep cobalt blue, real blue, which is a rare thing in a garden, rising in tall spikes from near black buds. Hummingbirds fight over it, and it blooms for a full 6 months because it flowers on new growth, just like the hibiscus. Here is the proof you can see with your own eyes. If it ever looks tired in midsummer, cut it back hard, and in the heat it springs right back and blooms all over again within a couple of weeks. You are watching the heat drive the flowers in real time. Give it a spot you pass often, near a window or a door, so you can watch the hummingbirds work it up close. It passes easily, thriving in heat and humidity that would flatten a softer plant, and the deer tend to pass it by. It is tender, hardy in Zone 7, and warmer, so in cold gardens, it is a container plant to overwinter, or an annual to enjoy and replace. In mild zones, the clump comes back wider and fuller each spring. You will find it at Almost Eden, Annie's Annuals, or Plant Delights, around $12 to $16. Number 4 is the second of only 2 plants here that will sail through a cold northern winter on their own. Hummingbird mint, the species called Agastache rupestris. This one is a desert native, and it behaves like it. While softer plants wilt in the late summer heat, it holds its color and keeps sending up slender spikes of smoky orange flowers, with hummingbirds tracing them for months. Brush against it, and the whole plant smells of licorice and root beer. It is hardy to around 25 below 0 into Zone 5, which makes it a real perennial for most of the people watching this. There is one rule, and it is the opposite of fussing. It must have lean, fast-draining soil. In rich ground or wet clay, it rots over the winter. Give it gravel and sun and nothing else, and it thrives for years. The deer and the rabbits leave it alone. The bees and butterflies do not, and because it needs so little water, it is perfect for a hot, dry corner where nothing else will bloom. Same pattern as the others. It saves its hardest blooming for the dry heat of late summer. The specialist for it is High Country Gardens, who named it their plant of the year, and it is usually priced around $13 to $16. Our 5th plant is a butterfly magnet that simply refuses to quit in the heat. Pentas. Where other summer flowers fizzle out in July and August, Pentas picks up the pace. It carries domed clusters of small star-shaped flowers in white, pink, red, and lavender, and the butterflies cover it. It keeps blooming right through the hottest, most humid stretch of the year. Pentas is tropical, hardy only in Zone 9 and warmer. So for most of us, it is one of the best things you can put in a pot on a hot, sunny patio. There, it blooms all summer and asks for very little. You do not even have to deadhead it. It keeps producing fresh clusters on its own, week after week, until the cold finally stops it. Compact series sold as Star Cluster and Bee Bright stay neat in a pot. Treat it as an annual in the cold zones, or bring the pot indoors. It is another one that is simply happiest when the thermometer climbs. You will find it at Almost Eden and most garden centers in summer, just a few dollars up to around $13. Coming in at number 6 is the plant with the boldest claim of all, and it has the experts to back it up. Scarlet sage, or Salvia coccinea. The plant scientists at the University of Florida put it about as plainly as it can be put. This native salvia is at its best during the hottest summer months, exactly when other flowering plants are wilting in the heat. That is the whole idea of this video, growing in a single plant. It sends up slim spikes of brilliant red tubular flowers from spring all the way to frost, and the hummingbirds adore it. Best of all, it is the easiest and cheapest thing on this list. You can grow it from a packet of seed for a few dollars. It blooms the first year. And in colder gardens, it drops a little seed and quietly returns on its own. It is the kind of plant an old friend hands you in a paper bag of seed, and then you have it forever. For started plants, a nursery like Joyful Butterfly will ship it to you. Of everything here, this may be the purest example of a plant that blooms harder the hotter it gets. The 7th plant looks like it is on fire, which is exactly its name. Firebush, the native one, Hamelia potens. It throws out clusters of slim red and orange tubular flowers, like little flames, all over the plant from spring until frost. And it does it on new growth, in the full blast of the sun. Hummingbirds and bright zebra longwing butterflies swarm it. Left to grow, it becomes a large loose shrub, and the small dark berries that follow the flowers feed the songbirds. It is subtropical, so in cold gardens it is grown as a fast annual or a large container plant, and in warm zones it returns from the roots. Now, one critical thing when you go to buy it, ask for the native firebush, the variety called patens. There is a look-alike sold as African firebush or dwarf firebush that is turning invasive, that crossbreeds with the native, and that the pollinators actually visit less. Florida native nurseries like Smarty Plants carry the true one, and it passes without question, flowering hardest in the hottest, brightest part of the year. And this is the moment to name the imposters, because right here is where most heat lists go wrong. Think of the plants people are always told to grow for heat, the ones that actually wilt or stall when it turns hot. There are 3 big ones. The coneflower slows and droops on the hottest afternoons. The autumn sage, for all its toughness, sees its bloom drop off in the peak of summer. And lavender simply sulks in humid heat. They tolerate heat. They do not love it. Knowing the difference is the whole point. And the 8th and last plant is the one that ties the whole garden together, floating above everything else. Tall verbena, Verbena bonariensis. Picture small clusters of lavender-purple flowers held on tall, thin, almost invisible stems, so they seem to hover in the air, with butterflies riding them. It blooms without stopping from early summer straight through the worst heat and drought, untroubled while everything around it crisps. In Zone 7 and warmer, it is a short-lived perennial, but it seeds itself so politely and so reliably that it simply keeps coming back on its own. Farther north, treat it as a self-sowing annual. Because you can see straight through it, you can plant it right at the front of a bed without hiding anything behind it, a rare and useful trick. The deer rarely touch it, and it is one of the toughest heat performers you can grow, blooming hardest when the heat is at its worst. It is easy to find as both plants and seed. So picture all 8 together now, in one garden, in the worst week of the summer. The hardy hibiscus and the agastache are the backbone that survives your winter. The lantana, the pentas, and the scarlet sage are pouring out color. The firebush and the blue salvia are pulling in the hummingbirds, and the tall verbena is floating over all of it. While every other yard on the street has gone brown and given up, this is the garden that is just hitting its peak. That is the real difference. Most of us spend the summer fighting the heat, shading and watering and coaxing plants through it. These 8 do the opposite. The heat is exactly what they have been waiting for. It is the kind of garden that still looks alive in late August, when most others have gone quiet. So tell me in the comments which one you are going to try and drop your growing zone. I will tell you whether to put it in the ground or keep it in a pot. And if you want more plants that thrive exactly where the garden center says they should not, subscribe, and I will keep bringing them to you.